of Product Management of PSN. Welcome to the first podcast of Colombo AI Conclave. Here with me, I have a couple of my friends. We are going to have an interesting topic to discuss today. We have risk management and internal audit. So not a usual topic for AI. I haven't come across at least. So today I have Dr. Aroshan, a good friend of mine, who's going to talk about risk management and internal audit. A different topic for AI, but let's see how Aroshan is going to help us unravel that. So with me to discuss the topic with Aroshan is Lahiru. I'll let him introduce himself, as well as Tarinthi will also chime in, because Tarinthi was part of Aroshan's team in implementing some of the solutions that was part of that effort to break into some of the difficult areas of internal audit through ML, right? So first of all, I'll go to Lahiru. Lahiru, would you want to introduce yourself first?
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. So, I'm Lahiru, and I'm actually representing as a senior solutions architect from Magaro. So I've been into many other quite similar implementations, and been into multiple projects in enterprise industry. So I would like to thank you and thanks all of you for having me here. Yeah, Aroshan. Thanks.
Thanks, Lahiru. Tarinthi?
Yeah, thanks, Rukshan, and good afternoon, everyone, for the viewers. I'm Tarindu. I'm from Hella Apparel Holdings. I overall have 10 plus years of experience in internal audit, and I've been part of MLOps journey as well. Looking forward to share some experience with the viewers. Thanks for having me.
Really great. So I am Rukshan Jayaratna. I am part of PSN Product Management and the co-host of Colombo AI Conclave with Rohan Jaivir. So I would want to start off with Aroshan with a quick question. So welcome to the show. We'll get your topic going forward. So please tell us about how you see internal audit as part of a larger transformation within an organization than just part of finance, right? That is what we usually know of. Aroshan.
Gotcha. So thank you very much, and it's a great honor and pleasure to be a part of this forum. So quickly coming on to the question, internal audit traditionally has been known as a subdivision of finance. And the general understanding is that it is kind of shadowing the work of external audit. That was the traditional understanding. But looking at the most recent developments in corporate governance, starting from the sovereign standard of Sarbanes-Oxley standard, as well as the COSO standards, now ERM actually bears a much larger role, especially in representing the fiduciary duties of the audit committee of an organization, and finally ensuring that the shareholder value as well as the organization's protection is ensured by internal audit. I apparently had the fortune of being the Group Chief Internal Audit Officer for Dialog Axiata PLC. Dialog is Sri Lanka's #1 largest privately held telco, and it's also a quad play institution where you get services of mobile, broadband, television, as well as next generation services. So when I got into internal audit, as the usual organizations, it was only running the internal controls verification activities. But then, having said that, I was continuously researching on how well internal audit could be developed in the organizational arena, and also to provide better value to the organization rather than just being a compliance division, just ticking in the box. So with that, I actually understood that internal audit spans much beyond of what it's currently doing. And with that, I actually try to link up internal audit into risk management, and also make internal audit one of the key elements which supports the management in decision making, as well as to ensure that board audit committees have better control and visibility towards the organization through the internal audit department. So traditionally, Rukshan, for internal audit is always perceived as a policing function. So naturally, when the usual routine is when an internal auditor is on the floor, people are afraid, people know something is going to get unearthed, and people love to hide things from the internal auditor. So initial step was to slowly change this perspective towards internal audit. So I think that I had to initially get into a bit of PR, pitched our new strategy to the other divisions, and also the key change what I wanted to communicate was that internal audit is not the police, but it's rather a business partnering function like HR or finance. It is there to enable your function and it's there to grow your function. So I think that entire change communication strategy kind of worked, where I initially did a set of road shows, pitched that internal audit is there. And also the second part is convincing them that internal audit wants to do a change. So I think that change convincing, I don't know initially whether I was able to sell it, but I think many of the CXOs, when actually I resigned the organization, they told that, see, when you initially pitched us the message, we thought that you are never going to succeed, but we felt that, this boy wanted to do something, so let's help it. So I think that's the help what we got, and I think we got the massive boost out of it.
Want to hear about now when you say, when we normally refer as internal audit, as very much you were saying, we always refer to it, see it as part of financial operations, doing the checks and balances related to accounts, with the financial things happen properly. But your story in dialogue, you spoke of where you went into further than just finance, going into operations, how you started mapping that operations department of operation side of all the departments rather into the audit department, right? So that journey, when I heard it first, I thought it was a good transformative story because it included not just technicalities of audit, but also included things of organizational transformation, leadership development, identifying specific specialists of each area, bringing them into the audit department itself, and creating that. I think you call it scripting, right? Scripting of all the various operational activities within the audit department, so that later on that can be built into a certain model. Can you tell us about that build up of that?
Yeah, Roshan, thanks. I think you explained it quite a bit. I think we have been having this chat quite a few times. So as I mentioned, the primary challenge what I had was internal audit was very much restricted to the finance division, and predominantly I think 70 to 80% of the reports which were coming out were only focusing on the financial part. But I think the latest or the most contemporary understanding for management is that internal audit should be representing multiple divisions and functions. And I actually took the stance that internal audit should have a script, or it should be a shadow organization of the main organization. So when you're into control activities, when you're verifying the control activities, when you're verifying whether the functions are going ahead as planned, whether the strategic objectives of the organization is being achieved, we should ensure that internal audit is represented in each and every department or function of the organization. Now, practically, this is very tough, but what I thought was, let me embark on the operation. So I created multiple silos inside internal audit. So one silo specifically focusing on the network, which basically is the lifeblood of the organization. And then one part getting into sales and marketing. The finance part anyway was there. But even finance, we were specializing it. And also, we were looking at, for the fintech operation, we had a separate silo which was formed. Then we were looking at cybersecurity and network security. So like this, we created silos which actually represented a mini organization. And with that, we tried to ensure that in our reports, we will perform our control activities for each of these critical functions, so that at the end of the day, the board audit committee had visibility onto the compliance as well as audit reports being done for each and every critical function of the organization. So that I think ultimately when I was wrapping up, if you take the full audit program, if you take the full audit spectrum, I think we were representing or we were presenting almost 90 to 95% of audit reports covering the entire organization, rather than 70% of it being only financial and it creating blind sides.
So
So
Aroshan,
yeah,
just want to ask you now, always I have seen this in all organizations, internal audit is under finance,
yes,
right? Finance is always still a supporting function for the core activity of the organization, right? But as you are very well saying, you have to replicate the whole organization within internal audit as well.
yeah.
Does it help that internal audit is always under finance, or shouldn't it be under something like operations? Just
Ideally, Rukshan, internal audit function is in a position to enjoy utmost independence in their reporting. So that means any other division is not in a position to, let's say, coerce or encourage internal audit to perhaps doctor the reports in order to get some kind of an unwanted favor. So with that functionally, they must report to the audit committee, and administratively they might report to the chief executive officer, but there should be adequate controls built in to evaluate whether internal audit is being subject to undue distress or any kind of an undue effect as a result of being reporting to this specific administrative body. So I think I should take this opportunity to heavily thank Dialogue's structure as well. I think that's one of the landmark structures which this country has, where the function reports to the audit committee, and administratively it reports to the chief executive officer, who plays a very independent role. That is Supun Veer Singh, and prior to that, Dr. Hans Vijay Surya, who played very independent roles in ensuring that internal audit has been independent always as much as possible.
wonderful. Thanks. I think it's a good point for us to move into what you did at Dialogue, right? In terms of particularly what we are interested in is how you did machine learning in Dialogue to catch frauds. So let's move into that, right? So let's talk about what you saw as a problem within Dialogue, and how you went into taking care of it, even though possibly machine learning or in AI in today's terms wasn't even part of your responsibilities. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think what I would do is let me just take a step back and define the lines of defenses an organization has, especially a listed organization. So any organization which is into commerce or which is providing commercial services is always has to be protected by 3 lines of defense. So the first line of defense is the management itself, where management, when they are performing their duties behalf of the shareholders on an agency function, with their due care, their professional knowledge, as well as the business acumen, when they are taking a decision, they will always enforce a professional level of control. So that means that is the first level of filter or first level of protection of the organization, not being used for any kind of I would say unfavorable or fraudulent kind of activities. The shareholders' funds are being protected at the first level of defense. Second level of defense is defined as a level which is level filter. So what is being filtered out, what is not being properly visible to the first level of defense, the managers or the people who are actually doing the function. The second level of defense will be looking at these specific flaws, and then they will try to rectify it. Also, this second level of defense becomes kind of the, I would say, the external scanner and the protector. They will continuously study what are the risks and external threats the organization is facing, and also will create sufficient defense to these kind of threats, where you can't expect the management also to look at external threats, because that will take their focus out of it. So second level of defense has a very wide area of protection and governance of the organization. Then you get the third level of defense, that is internal audit, which is the last level of defense. So the beauty of internal audit is, yes, it tends to carry a very specialist job, but the problem is when third level of defense activates, especially in cases of frauds or significant deviations, most probably the organization would have already faced the loss. So the typical issue what I faced at Dialogue was also that. So when we get a whistleblower complaint, or when it is detected by internal audit, say on a routine audit, in most of the times, the perpetrator actually has left the organization, and the organization is always left with a huge loss, which again it has to write off, and you have to go to the audit committee, give the explanations, and so on. So you can't expect the management to protect this at the first and second level of defense also, because fraud, in my opinion, and during my time at Dialog, what I noted was it was developing in leaps and bounds, the level of complexities. So with that, I was actually looking for a solution which would be able to assist us in detecting these frauds actually during its occurrence, or actually before the perpetrator gets out of the cycle, before its initial discovery. Well, it's actually something very debatable, because when I also present this case at leading internal audit forums, I always get the question posed that aren't you blurring the lines of this defense? So what I always tell them is, see, what internal audit does is we will design the system and then we will hand it over to a separate set of staff. We will not be performing the second and third level defense both, because at the end of the day, we have to audit the second level as well, the efficiency of the second level as well. So at internal audit, the beauty of it is all the staff, now as I told, because I wanted to create this mini organization inside internal audit, I always ensured that I get staff from the management or the business. So people who knew the business very well, who knew the function very well, and also who had this perfect, I call it always the audit nose, to find out audit issues. I wanted to develop some kind of a system which is able to, in a real-time scenario, tell us that there are potential frauds or potential misconducts which are happening in the organization, and we design a system that we have adequate notice and adequate time to, grab the perpetrators, and also, get them into a legal representation, and also protect the organization's brand. Because our initial tool was analytics. We I think Tarindu was the first person. Tarindu was just recruited, and so we were slowly developing it. The progress was very slow. This was in 2017. Just got ACL as well, and again, the drawback of ACL is it's always retrospective. So again, the problem was it was a heavy period of time involved. And always when we discover the specific fraud and we try to investigate that, what we find always is that, the fraud has already happened, organization has lost millions, and also the perpetrator has gone. So with analytics, we kind of expanded the procedure, we kind of cut down the timing. But then still I wasn't happy, because I actually, this whole concept came into my mind with this movie called Minority Report. If I can take you down the memory line, I'm sure you will remember this movie. I think Tom Cruise was starring in it, where it was an artificial intelligence driven system which was in a position to track when a person wants to commit a crime. Actually, his mindset is being mapped, and just a few seconds before he commits the crime, let's say a murder, or let's say an extortion, or let's say some kind of a bribery act, the system quickly detects his brain neurons, and then rapidly deploys the force. So actually, before the person commits the crime, this force will come in and apprehend this person, so that the society does not face that loss, or an innocent person doesn't lose his life. So this was a concept which kind of I had in my mind, and I thought, why can't we develop the same model for Dialog? Now, for 2018, this was very futuristic thinking, and but then the only weapon I had was reading, so I was continuously referring to different online manuals and online material which was available. And suddenly I came to AI was happening those days. AI was kind of the hot topic. But then I stumbled upon this solution of machine learning, and kind of create a solution. Now, so with that, I was working with Tarindu. We had this separate project team. And then we slowly started developing this machine learning model. The good thing of telco is that you're basically sitting on a mine of data, which I always call it a gold mine, because you have plenty of data which you can effectively use, do your trending, and then create models, which the moment you extrapolate it, you are in a position to do your forecasting.
Aroshan, interesting story. So can you talk about how you actually developed that machine learning model, and also about certain problems you mentioned about you want to do more then and there detection of fraud, right? So Lahiru might also have some questions regarding that. So tell us about how you built up that model, and then how you actually went into refining that further for wider production use.
Definitely. Believe that we know that we have decided to go for a specific model that you wanted to train, or you're focusing on a specific model. So would you mind explaining us how did you decide to go for a specific model, and what is your experience? We know that you joined the organization as a newbie and you had a challenge of the technical ground. And how did you go for that, and how could you accomplish this challenge?
Yeah. So thanks for that question, Lairu. To be honest, in 2018, we didn't have any clue of any kind of a methodology to build this ML model. I think the whole concept of ML was also pretty alien. I can remember when I was talking about machine learning, I think Tharindu was telling me, "Boss, this is futuristic. Are we really going to do it?" I said, "Yes." The second part was, are we really going to do it inside internal audit? I said yes, because I don't think IT was also that much focused on machine learning at that point in time. But then having said that, we wanted to take it as a challenge. So a lot of literature, online resources being reviewed. And then the model what I wanted was, after the analytics, we wanted to look at a continuous auditing architecture. That was the key what we want to look at. So the problem of internal audit is you will always audit data which is around 3 to 4 months old, because of auditing horizon, the limited resourcing inside the organization, and the massive scope. It always creates us this problem where when we have to audit the data of a specific function, which is about the data is around 4 to 5 months old sometimes. So for telco, for IT and telco company like Dialog, that's a massive amount of reports, and that's the massive amount of time. So after extensively analyzing Exchange, only I had this brainchild of, why don't we do the scripting on Python, which was a freeware, and then also look at some of these free algorithms running on the web, and why don't we just subscribe to it, and why don't we do the simulation model inside.
Thanks, Aroshan, and thanks, Lairu, for the question. So, like Aroshan mentioned, so we had ACL. So, ACL Analytics, they tool actually provided more and more functions for auditors. ACL means audit command language. So we had to have a kind of a problem statement where we can showcase the IA feature, internal audit functionality on how to use ML. So rather than using directly on audits, we wanted to get some support from other divisions as well. So that's why we wanted to focus our strengths in the area of anomaly detection, because anomaly detection is one area that internal audit also is in interest, as well as the relevant support divisions wanted to get these things mitigated. So that's where, as one use case was this, we had a lot of SIMs getting activated in a misconductive or a malicious manner. So we had certain kind of instances noted, but we couldn't predominantly pinpoint where to go next. So that's where we use our ML use case.
Right.
In case now, like Aroshan mentioned, we had a number of databases and systems were there. So the data points were available as a data mining, and we wanted to drill down using these data. What could be the anomaly points we could pinpoint using all these data? So some of these data are structured, some are actually not structured at all, semi-structured. They were in databases, they were in SQL databases, or some were in the data hive Hadoop. So that was the first step.
All right.
We identified the relevant data sets. We did a kind of a cleansing on the data, and then we amalgamate and collate all the data into one particular data set. Then it was the time to use what sort of algorithms can we use for this particular incident. Identifying particular anomaly activations. So if you say anomaly activations, we don't have that much of data, past history data. There are two parts of ML algorithm. So you could use supervised learning as well as unsupervised learning. So supervised learning, to use supervised learning, we should have some sort of a labeled data set so that any other data that is coming on, it will easily label. So we didn't have that. We didn't have that. That luxury to use supervised learning. So that's why we went to unsupervised learning. So unsupervised learning. So unsupervised learning, there are algorithms like k-means, fuzzy k-means, Gaussian metrics. So all these were giving an kind of a way to cluster and give an output. So what we did as internal audit, we subject our data sets to these particular algorithms because we didn't know what particular algorithm to use in the first place. So what we did was we subjected our data sets. So for example, in k-means, we can define a number, give us certain clustering. So what the algorithm does is it will cluster together like batches and clusters the anomalies into separate parts, whatever the number that we define. Likewise, we tested out each and every algorithm mentioned. So there's a kind of a evaluation part of this algorithm that needs to be happen. So the more accuracy it gives, maybe about 99% or close to 99% or 98 is the most satisfactory that we could get a good result.
Sorry for interrupting. So from beginning to this, so how long that it took for you to improve these algorithms? I know that in some of the conversations we could get to know that you did some improvement to the existing algorithms and you have added some added layers to that. So roughly understanding is like for how long that it took. I mean, the duration that it took for you to improve this model for audience to understand. So I know that you went through a lot of challenges, and how long that it took for you.
We had to train and train. The more the data that we have for our algorithms, it's better for the output later on. So we initially tested with 3 months of data. So we collected 3 months of data sets, and then we trained the algorithms to get an output. Later, slowly by incrementing, we actually managed to get 6 months of data, so it will give a better picture.
When it comes to the quality factor, Tharindu, so how could we measure the quality of this outcome? So did we have any quality assurancing mechanism, or you tried with some, I would say, cross-checking mechanisms? So could you look into that? Since in your use case, we could find that the outcome goes to customer, or outcome is eventually affecting a user. So how could we manage this quality part of it?
So we wanted some support division. So in our case, there was one channel planning team was there, who was actually the custodianship was there, the activations. So we collaborated with them. Whatever the data output that we got from these algorithms, we actually relayed to them on the results that which gave this output from the algorithms, and they actually cross-validate our output. So if it is kind of a particular anomaly scenario that we have identified, and if they also validate, it gives us a kind of assurance that the algorithm is perfectly fine and the detection part is working. So then it's kind of for training and deployment part next on. Initially, we had certain level of rules that we developed. So obviously, through our audits, we identified certain incidents which were carried from our audit per se. So those were subjected in our scenario analysis as well. So if a particular incident, like for example, if a particular person having more than 10 SIM activated, it would give us kind of audit point that no particular person can get more than 5 SIMs activated. That is, of course, it's a violation. It's an anomaly for us. So that will be one particular rule for our uh, pre-ML algorithm. So those kind of scenarios we identify, and those will be subjected then and there in the algorithm. That's what we did. And when we found out a new behavior, we go back to the team with our support team, clarify and vet the output what we got, and get the tool created as a new one. Whatever the behavior that we identified, it will be created as a new rule for our dashboards.
Okay.
That's how it works.
Correct, Sanil, which means that as a summary that you even have a continuous improvement model as well, right? So your model was continuously improving based on the results that you received or the quality outcome that you're getting. And also you updated the rules as I understood as a summary, right? Easy?
Correct. So that's what. So normally when we detect, when we close out that particular mode of operandi, the whatever the fraudster or the whoever the person wants, he will try a different manner. So that's why we wanted to use ML and getting new behaviors identified then and there, and we create our ML algorithm as well as the rule engine so that we can stay up to date.
And I think the beauty of it is, Lahiru, if I may interject, is the machine learning model evolves into a certain sense where it actually provides certain byproducts. For internal audit, it was actually a byproduct, but I think for the business, I guess it was a main product where now actually one of the primary objectives what we had was to detect certain erratic behavior of the distributors. So, and that kind of experience certain major losses to the organization as well. So with that, it kind of gave out this very fantastic byproduct to the business where it was now in a position to, I think in a 80 to 90% accuracy, predict an instance where a distributor or a retailer of a particular geographic location going out of business, it actually can predict. So especially for the mobile business, one of the key issues is suddenly out of the blue, one distributor or retailer might go out of business, and the distribution in that specific geographic area is threatened, and you know, definitely it's a gateway for a new competitor to play in. So here the model actually was so evolved that at one point in time it came out with this distributor failure predictor, which was actually predicting the potential distributor failures about 3 to 4 months prior to the actual crystallization of this. So when you take mobile services, predominantly you will get the prepaid mobile services and the postpaid mobile services. So postpaid mobile services, you subscribe to the service, after a month, you will be receiving a bill and that you will pay. So a lot of professionals as well as organizations set up this model. It will be running on a credit. Majority of the public, they prefer to run on a prepaid model. So prepaid model is you will purchase a prepaid credit, say via card or via some kind of a retailer or retail point, and then you will load it to your phone, and when you're using it, the prepaid credits would be set off. Now for prepaid, there's actually a very expansive distribution model coming into play. It's like it's identical to, let's say, distributing pills of Panadol, or even distributing chocolates, or even distributing biscuits. So it has to get into a retailer point where the customer should be at his hands reach, get a prepaid card or a prepaid reload to subscribe for his services. Our retail universe is any place where you can sell a pill of Panadol, you should be able to sell a reload card. And the beauty of prepaid cards is like a Panadol pill, you don't need especially if you take Coke, you should always provide cooling. Or you should provide, you know, specialist transport and so on. So, but this never gets expired, you know, doesn't get damaged unless you know you really want to damage it. So even the roadside food outlet, you should be able to sell a prepaid card. But to ensure that this reach is there is a massive hidden distribution model what you should deploy at the organization's end. So it means massive amount of distributors, huge distributors. Then you have to get into regional distributors. Then you have to get into city-wise distributors, villages, and so on. So now this model means
side question there, Aroshan. It is still a manual effort, right? It's not even dispatched through electronically or digitally even now.
Now you can actually they were Dialog heavily developed this architecture where even through a 2G network with USSD coding now you can actually get rid of the cards. But sometimes one thing we should understand is that for the set of a certain segment of the market, you know, when they want to purchase, when they give out, let's say 1,000 rupees or 500 rupees, they need to receive something physically. So this card, although the value of the card might be even less than 50 cents, but it's a notion of, you know, the transaction or purchasing something. So obviously you must have that product in play. So, but now I have seen a lot of people getting into the reload station, giving the money and getting it automatically reloaded into the unit. But still, even these reloads, Rukshan, there's a heavy model involved. Where you know you have large scale distributors, you have small scale distributors, you have individual operators who are selling the cards under umbrellas you would have seen on the payment. So see, the whole thing snapped up at a point where, you know, certain distributors and retailers had exploited a backdoor in the system, an anomaly or a vulnerability of the system, where they had exploited it. And the initial exploit was when you cancel a certain reload what you have purchased, this gets reversed in the system, but in the original system, but in the distributor retail system, the credit is still there, but you don't get a liability. So like say for an example, you purchase 500 worth of credits from the main system and you cancel it. It goes back, it reduces from your liability, but in your wallet, the wallet what you are supposed to sell the reloads, it's still appearing without a liability to the company. So on Dialog's end, virtually the reload has been given and it has been cancelled. So for Dialog, you don't have a liability from the specific retailer, but at the retailer point, this specific liability has been multiplied. And the funny part is a person on a very basic person on a push cycle might be discovering these vulnerabilities and defrauding the company. That's the sad part of it. So this was a vulnerability, and then this kind of amounted to a massive loss to the organization, this multiplication where people have been employing it. And with that, what we basically did was these kind of losses, this kind of play, we automatically started, we actually started creating this behavioral model of these failures. And these are the parameters what we were feeding to the machine learning script, the Python script. So like that, even distributor failures got into the model. With those inputs only, this distributor failure prediction model actually crystallized as a byproduct for Internal Audit. But I think it was a major step for the business, where now the business actually had a capability of detecting this. The majority amount of fraud what we saw on let's say payments, supply chain, and so on, we started feeding it to the system, and the system automatically was giving us predictive capability on at least when if you take any kind of a fraud, Lahiru and Rukshan, when you study the sequence of that specific fraud, you will see that the perpetrator has been trying to attempt this fraud on multiple steps. So what he generally does is, number one, he might come on a Saturday and try to do the transactions where you don't get many people. Then he might look at an option where his normal supervisor is on leave. He might look at the second or a third supervisor, an alternate approver in the system. He might try to pick days where the volume is very high. He might try to pick days like, you know, poor days where the transaction levels are very low. And he might try to, you know, use passwords of his associate who is sitting next to him with his own Windows login password. So those kind of trends you will see. So what we basically did was we scripted all these moves and the final fraudulous act. And with that, what we did
Right.
was we created this parameter into system. We created this Python query into system where now the system is able to actually pick when a fraudster tries to look at this kind of, tries to attempt certain misconducts on the system in the initial 2 to 3 attempts, it is now able to, alert us and tell that, see, this guy is trying to play funny. So,
Lahiru, maybe you can also help me unravel this. So how would particularly ML help here? Because for me, it looks like you detected a pattern, and then you, when the pattern when the pattern is triggered, you have an alert coming in, right? So where does ML particularly come in? Probably in a different word, you can maybe Lahiru or Tarindu can explain that further a little bit.
We can listen to Tarindu as well. So usually in general Rukshan, so the ML comes to the picture as a technology part of it. So we know that the biggest problem is to prevent. So actual thing that we are looking for the prevention. So how can we prevent such fraudulent activity that might happen in future? So we have certain fast learnings and we have certain data collected, and now we have an algorithm that we are planning to think of the algorithm to apply for a data set, applied for a data set to be trained, and then we are planning to predict in future. So that the behavior, it's called the behavior or the pattern analysis. So how a particular customer who is having a predictive or fraudulent behavior is about to be detected. So it's about detection part of it. So the algorithm has to have a capability of detecting a different pattern by looking at the previous patterns that they had, or in simple terms, that we have set of data that we have used to train the algorithm, and a way that the algorithm is capable of identifying that, okay, so now there is a possibility that this particular customer is going to execute a fraudulent.
We find out the specific unsupervised learning algorithm into a deeper level accuracy, then moving to the supervised learning is easier, so that the particular data sets are labeled. So then and there, whatever the segment that particular segment is activating, from there itself we can pinpoint and identify the anomaly itself and prevent it happening.
Right. Yeah. So in summary, Tarindu, do we have? I mean, it's like, did you have two different models for prepaid and postpaid, or you had a one model to cater to both of these two requirements?
So we worked with two different modules, Lahiru. So for postpaid, we wanted to segment further. So we used fuzzy k-means, and prepaid we used generally we used k-means itself, because it was easier to identify and cluster the algorithm, the clustering part with prepaid.
Aroshan, just now that we have sort of discussed about the model, now what was there any sort of a eureka type of a moment where you got something extraordinary out of the model that you have developed, sort of like a surprise, something that you got unexpectedly capable, you discovered unexpected capability in the model that you developed, or did you detect something that organization wasn't expecting it to detect, sort of a thing?
Yeah. So to be honest, Rukshan, although you call it a eureka moment, there was a massive amount of work behind it. So I think I always attribute it to the massive amount of change management you have to undertake in an organization. Because machine learning, developing these kind of models inside internal audit, you cannot do it overnight. This was actually a result of a strategy plan of, I think, spanning over 36 months, to be honest. So when we initially took over the organization, we had a labor force of around 22 to 23, if I'm not mistaken. And once the machine learning model was in play, the total staff we had was 7, but the number of assignments has actually quadrupled. Initially, they were doing around 10 to 12 assignments per month, per year. And finally, when we were completing, when I was leaving the organization, we were doing around 47 main assignments plus 40 questions. So totally around 90 total assignments, which was done only by 7 people. So it was a massive amount of change management, investment of effort as well by the department, and also it's a very exhaustive task on the leadership angle as well. Now, talking about the Eureka moment, I think the key Eureka moment was seeing the productivity part, where you record at the audit committee that you have completed 87 assignments with only 7 people, and your ratios really going through the roof. I think that's one of the key Eureka moments I as a leader had. But I think on a functional level, the key Eureka moment was actually unearthing one of the most complicated money laundering schemes Sri Lanka had ever seen. So due to confidential reasons, I cannot explain the full mechanism, but it was a very complex model which involved multiple monetary circles which exploited the normal cash cycle of Sri Lanka. Then it moved on to the mobile cash cycle. Then it moved on to the prepaid cash cycle. And finally, it was washed off through tourist SIMs, which only very short-term use and which had very minimal identification capability. So, and also I think we had a very brief insight onto terrorist financing as well. And also there were multiple scenarios where we had detected SIM farms or Bitcoin farms through the system, where ML had massively helped us detect all these and clamp all these. Because otherwise, if a detection happens through a legal enforcement agency like the police or the army, then the organization will face a massive penalty as well as a reputational issue. So actually, ML was able to give us this capability of detecting these kind of heavily illegal transactions or illegal activities by our so-called customers, and with that we were able to protect the organization. So I think even when I talk on different forums, perhaps even overseas forums of telco, they are also very much surprised sometimes as to how we had done these kind of detections. This is basically what AI and ML does to the organization, and I think one of the second level, so one of the different level achievements what I saw was also the system was able to provide us with cross-selling opportunities in a much more effective way, where it was profiling the existing customers and then also pinpointing, what are the additional services sales and marketing could pitch in for customers as well. So what I want to compel is that getting AI and fixing AI into internal audit and or else the larger picture, what we today love to call it as GRC. That's a major area these days I'm involved in, governance, risk and compliance. Initially, it will do a huge clamp down because you need to wire the system, massive amounts of information in play, a lot of compliance requirements, what you inject into the business. But then once it gets into the play, once the system gets used to it, the permutations or the number of opportunities which it gives to the business is massive, even than the opportunities what it gives to internal audit as well as risk management.
I'll say, yeah, in simple terms that specifically this fraud detection part is quite interesting, Rukshan. It's like for an audience to understand the flood detection is a topic that everyone is interested in. At the same time, technology can support for detection, and we know that the massive amount of data that is going to flow through a system is like something that is challenging. And with historical aspect of data, it's understandable that and it's doable, but fraud detection and prevention is quite a challenging stuff. So the question that I have is like, how did Tharindu manage this massive amount of data? So your system definitely is going to be exposed to a large number of customers, and you are going to handle it in a real-time basis. It's like, Rukshan, the simple terms is like you cannot go for a post-mortem once something has happened, right? Isn't it? So you have to, your system has to be in a scalable manner that it should be detecting and should prevent it. Or in simple terms, it should stop it. So how did you manage that? I mean, from technological ground. So the massive amount of data that you have to process.
So we wanted to pick the most important data as well as to leave out garbage. So, and also one important factor is the frequency that we want to maintain the data history. So whatever the data That's why we went initially with a 3-month period. Later on, in some cases, we felt that the volume is not much, so we wanted to go into a big more level. So there are 3 V's are there in the big data analytics. So the volume and the velocity and the that other one, the speed. So we wanted to get the initial designing part. The architecture designing part is the important thing. What data is needed, the quality, and the frequency of maintaining. So the hardcore part, the 70% or the 80% of these projects are mainly on the data identification and cleansing part, the ETL part.
All right.
Right.
Yeah, so I think with that, we also need to showcase the secret weapon, Tarindu. We actually all this capability now actually should run through the help of a data scientist. So we actually had to create our own homegrown data scientist for the entire thing, because Tarindu actually had a massive workload where he was working as an auditor as well. So I was heading the commercial and operational audits. Tarindu was heading the IT and system related aspect of it. So with that, we actually wanted a data scientist, but at that point in time, we couldn't justify the recruitment of a separate data scientist. And also in 2018, the concept of a data scientist joining internal audit anyway, I don't think we would even be able to fish a suitable resource. So basically, I think what I and Tanu did was we created our own homegrown data scientist. So we recruited an intern from I think one of the leading IT institutions, and then we got him. So the brilliant part of him was he had a brilliant analytical mind. That's what I liked in him. And with that, we slowly started developing this gentleman. So to be honest, I think many people don't believe me. Initially, he couldn't even properly speak in Sinhalese and English also. So there were long nights spent by myself and Tarindu, teaching him the language also. I can still remember I got this book called First Aid in English, and after work, when I finish the work at about 7 or 8 o'clock, then I get this gent and I teach him until about 9 or 10 in the night, starting from the grammar. So with that, we slowly built our data scientists. It took us about 2 years, but finally, when we tested him in 2020 or 2021 inside the organization, when actually the business in a big manner, with all the investments and everything, the business went into AI, our data scientists was actually placed first in the competition, which was organized by the company, and everyone was taken by surprise. So I think I actually Rukshan actually asked me. I think that is my eureka moment as a leader. How I did this change management, how I created this data scientist on my own, and how I built him, and he was judged as the best data scientist of the organization. Also, 2022 Dialogue Internal Audit was also awarded as the most technically advanced internal audit in all of the Asiata group. And also, I think consecutively we were able to win the best change management award as well inside the organization. So like the support the technology has given us. So I think if someone who is a pro or maestro of machine learning comes and studies how we did it, I'm sure at the onset he will laugh. But I think the beauty of it is just two people. Me, I don't even have a basic IT degree, and Tarindu is just an IT auditor who doesn't have the accounting qualification. And the two of us created a data scientist on our own. Got that data scientist to be a L6 data scientist, and also winning ASIATA's best award for machine learning models. All these things in 2017-18, where ML was not a very popular model. I think that's the biggest eureka out of the whole story. And I hope and pray that it becomes a massive inspiration for other internal auditors and risk managers like us as well.
I think that's a good point where, I mean, sort of like a startup kind of a group operates in a large organization. And typically in a startup, the important thing is that nobody knows things, because then automatically you grow up with your own way of doing things, which kind of challenges the broader aspects of a large organization, which usually takes time to get things done because you know too much sometimes, right? And then you actually are very risk averse, and all these things I also come into play. So thanks, Aroshan, for detailing that out. Um, I think we missed a little bit in the beginning. I just wanted to ask you that also again, how you grew up this organization, because you spoke of about how you placed various individuals of the internal audit under sort of assistance, we call it a different name, I think, of under various departments, and let them learn those departments' works, and then you brought into them into under internal audit to get them mapped, their operations to be mapped, right? Can you describe that a little bit as well?
Yeah.
Right. Thanks, Aroshan. So finally, I like to ask from Lahiru, having listened to the whole story. Now that's about 8 years back, right? So given the current capabilities of this domain now, um, I know this is very retrospective on hindsight stuff, but if somebody, particularly on Aroshan's specialty, embarks on such endeavor again, um, what are your tips of using technology, especially hearing after how Aroshan managed to pull it through with so much less resources? What would be your tips given a tech leader in the domain? Lahiru?
Yeah. And I think what we could wrap out of this entire discussion is the challenges that they faced. I would say it's unlike 2024 that we have everything in one plate that you can just pick whatever you want. So one of
Yeah.
the biggest challenges that they had is that it's quite an unusual use case that we have. I think for me, even it's the first time that I'm seeing this internal auditing with AI and ML. So usually in organizations that we try to invest where we can get immediately in written. So here in this case is quite challenging. So one of the cases is that the budgeting, and one of the cases is resourcing, one of the cases is technology. So I would say that in all angles they had challenges. So the way that they have accomplished, or way that they have achieved it, is quite admirable, and it's something even it's not that easy. So certain cases that we could understand is about how did they evolve it, unlike in 2024. So 8 years before is that technology is different, and then we didn't have a current, I would say, in today's tools like what we have. And it's very easy in today's markets to pick a tool and pick an algorithm. Even a person who has no understanding about algorithms can easily purchase a solution which is well known, and can plug it and play. But 8 years before, it's not that easy. So you know that they were talking about, especially Thanadu was explaining algorithms that he was struggling into, and Dr. Aroshan was explaining the use cases that they were struggling into. So these stuffs are quite impressive, and the story is quite, I would say, unusual in this use case. But the way that they have achieved is quite remarkable. Yeah, Rukshan. So if you specifically look at that, the challenge is not in one aspect. They had multiple challenges. So a summary of the challenges is like almost in all the factors. They had technological challenges, they had people challenges, and they had budgetary challenges. The way that they have achieved is quite remarkable. Yeah.
Thanks for giving your good viewpoint on that, Lahiru. So I think we can call it wrap. And thanks, Aroshan and Tarendu, for spending the time, and sort of like this is your second recording because first time didn't work out. So thanks again for doing that, and thanks a lot, Lahiru, for connecting us up a little bit away from Sri Lanka also, and thank you for spending time to ask a few good technical questions with technical authority on this. So thanks a lot, and love to catch up with you guys again, and we'll do that soon. Thanks a lot. I'll stop the recording now, and
Thanks.
don't go.
Thanks.
Yeah. Oh,
Sure.
wait.
Sure.
So thanks, May.